Hello and welcome to Unscripted Gaming. My name is Mike. I'm joined by Josh and Ray. How are you guys?
What? Wow, he just took away our ability to fuck it up.
Wow. He did.
I'm impressed.
I'm the captain now. You told me to drive. That's what I'm
Mike
doing.
Mike did it. Wow, that's incredible.
Good. Answer the question. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hi.
Josh is good. Very few complaints coming from this corner.
Suicide Squad is the best movie of 2016.
That's a lie.
Well, this has been Unscripted Gaming. Thank you for watching.
You know what? Actually, don't
had a good
subscribe. It's just, you don't need any more cancerous statements like that.
See,
in
now
your
with
life.
opinions like that, Ray is the perfect guest for Creed Got Robbed. But
see, I actually think Suicide Squad is, in reality, I'm just fucking around. In reality, I think that is an abomination of a superhero movie, and quite possibly one of the worst modern superhero movies I've ever seen. Worse than Batman v Superman, because at least Batman v Superman, in its action, in its dumbass story, in its Batman fucking murdering people, at least it was a decent watch. Suicide Squad has no redeeming qualities as a movie, as a piece of filmography, even when you kind of quote-unquote drop it to the level of comic book hero movie, it doesn't even do that right. It gets none of the source material right, and at all. I could go on for 15 minutes about how the Joker and Harley Quinn's relationship, they just completely missed the mark on how that's supposed to be represented. But
yeah, it's real bad.
This isn't Creed Got Robbed. This is Unscripted Gaming.
And
let's talk about video games.
We're gonna talk about some games.
it's been a slow news week, so you know.
Not really.
What?
It's funny because it has been a busy news week, but
no games have come out recently.
Actually,
there have been no dumpster
video games
fires.
have been It's the great video game cancellation of April 1st.
Yep, it was crazy. A lot of games got announced and then immediately canceled because they said, "Nah, this is a really bad idea. Especially it's a really bad name." So, just pack it up and go home.
So April 1st, what I did, and I'm not gonna lie, on April Fool's Day, I left my home and I did literally anything else that did not involve the internet. I took my dog for a walk. We walked on the beach together. It was great.
That sounds
I'm
beautiful.
like, nah.
I fell for one. The guys behind Project AM2R posted a blog about their next project, and they were doing a Sonic 2 remake. And they had artwork of like Sonic in the Samus armor, like picking screen, so you could like pick all this stuff and equipment. And I was like, when I first saw it, I was like, oh wow, that's a really, god damn it, this is April 1st. It got me good.
That's rough. I'm trying to think if I saw any other actually good ones or
the Google the
Google one
Netflix
I think was pretty good.
The Netflix one with Will Arnett was pretty good.
I actually did not watch that because when someone told me it's like 48 minutes long, I'm like, I don't think
I haven't watched the whole thing. I watched the first maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and then I kind of scanned through, and it was like more. I was like, man, I really like listening to Will Arnett talk about random shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, okay. Oh, wow. It's a microwave. 30 seconds is what it used to be. It's like, wow, I guess it's not. Thanks, Will. It was interesting, I think. I don't think I enjoyed it, but I was intrigued by it.
I think the only really good April Fool's joke, if we're going to talk about gaming and the zeitgeist of gaming, and this barely even counts, is but what I'm saying is the Venn diagrams on that pretty well. They announced Rick and Morty Season 2 would start on April Fool's Day, and then it actually did. And you can watch that episode. I watched it. It's great. It's everything I needed in the fresh season of Rick and Morty to be. Oh, and
Never
in case you're an anime... Wow, that is some of the best TV out on the internet right now. You should totally watch the first 2 seasons of Rick and Morty. I can give nothing but good things. Especially if you appreciate, hard science or sci-fi. Not really hard science, just comedy sci-fi. If you're an anime fan, the season 2 of Attack on Titan started on April 1st as well.
I've been meaning to watch that. The first
Attack on Titan is great.
The first season of One Punch Man has come to Netflix, and I watched that in a minute. That is a great show.
Yeah, you need to marathon that show. Once you start, you cannot stop.
That's a great show.
Anime was a mistake.
Oh, Hayao Miyazaki. Oh.
Anime is one of
God's
the seven wonders of the planet. One of
media.
the most amazing things that has ever come from the mind of man.
Okay.
It's true.
Interesting.
I mean, One Punch Man speaks for itself, and then there's the movie Gurren Lagann. Those are stars in the sky. Just a masterpiece of giant When you have robots the size of galaxies fighting each other, you need to marvel at.
I did rewatch the Gurren Lagann series quite recently. That's still a really good show.
That still holds up. There's nothing wrong with
Let's
that
just
show.
keep talking about anime, so Mike doesn't have anything to talk about.
You know what, Josh? If you keep this up, you might become Hokage someday.
You know what?
You might get there.
A Naruto reference. Oh, wow.
We are actually shifting the focus of this podcast from video games to anime. Suck it, Mike.
Unscripted anime.
Unscripted anime : suck it, Mike. The show, a new podcast coming soon.
I'm actually surprised Mike pulled out a Naruto reference, especially kind of a deeper one.
What?
Informs me you might have watched a little bit
I don't
of
even Naruto. Like,
man, I watched a good bit of Naruto like way back.
Who got time
and
for
I
that?
played that Naruto fighting game on the GameCube. Pretty solid. Like Eric brought it to college a couple times. You play as Rock Lee and you open up the chakra gates. You just kick people's ass. It's great.
See, I just don't have time for Naruto because I think it's roughly 33,000 episodes right now, and I just don't have time for that. Give or take one or two.
Like
I did watch the first 188 episodes, and you are not wrong for being intimidated because at episode 188 there was a point where I'm like, I think I'm gonna stop.
Like at some point, there's probably like with how ridiculous that show is, like the pacing sometimes. There's probably like someone out there who's condensed it into like 188 episodes into like 20, just because of how it's like. We're fighting Zabuza on this goddamn bridge for like 30 episodes. It's like
somebody did that with Dragon Ball Z, where they cut out a lot of the filler and shortened some of the fights. Yeah. Where basically they took the thing and they condensed it down to like compact it and remove a lot of the filler.
That sounds.
So I watched all of Dragon Ball Z Kai. It takes 180 some odd episodes and condenses it down to 97. Don't get me wrong.
Dang.
97 episodes is still
a lot of
marathon of fucking anime. It's not a short amount, but still, they cut it almost in half.
But the breathtaking efficiency, that's incredible. Well done.
Oh, and they redrew a lot of scenes from it, so it looks a whole lot better. Better than how I remember as a kid. You know how when you have nostalgia goggles on?
Yeah. Well, and I remember seeing something where like a lot of the Dragon Ball Z stuff like bounced between different production studios for the drawing and stuff like that, and even episode to episode, so like there would be massive variances in the quality of the animation and the drawing depending on who had that episode. There are videos of it on YouTube you can look up, like drawing.
You know that happened with Gurren Lagann.
Really?
Episode 4 done completely different art style. It was actually such an outcry from the fans that they changed it up. That the CEO that created that studio, Gainax, which is also the studio that brings us Evangelion, Kill la Kill, he quit. He said, if this is how anime fans react to just a simple art change, I want nothing more to do with the industry, and just fucked off and left. And I don't blame him.
Like, peace out, motherfuckers. You ungrateful bastards.
Yeah, so I don't blame him. Anyways, we're like 10 minutes in, haven't talked damn about video games.
Well, I thought video games were canceled.
Let's get started. Nintendo has openly admitted there's something wrong with the left Joy-Con. Let's just get that out there.
Yes, and it sounds like they are fixing it. So if you have an issue,
So basically, what it sounds like is that one of the factories that was charged with manufacturing the Joy-Cons had a slight variance in it from that particular place, and they have since fixed it. and if you are having issues, they will let you send it in, put some foam in it, and send it back to you within a week. And apparently that foam has done massively well to fix that issue.
Well, what the foam does is it blocks outside signal interference from getting to the main radio antenna. So I'm curious how much... You know how the Red Ring of Death cost Microsoft $1.5 billion because they used glue or cheap paste as opposed to Arctic Silver thermal paste like you're supposed to do when you're building a computer and attaching motherboard pieces to GPUs? I'm curious how much this will end up costing Nintendo. I don't know if they care or not since the Switch is doing well, but I'm going to go ahead and request a replacement left Joy-Con because nothing is more infuriating than I'm playing like some Zelda in tablet mode and the left Joy-Con desyncs. And I'm like, you have no excuse at this point to desync. You are right next to the console. You are attached to the console.
You're so close.
Why can't I move?
Why would you do this? Yeah,
I have not had that issue. I don't know if I actually said on this podcast, but I do have a Switch now. I can't remember how. It's been a while since you recorded. I'm not really sure, but I have a Switch now too.
It's been 2 weeks, so we haven't.
And I have not had that issue. I have not had any issues with syncing on the left Joy-Con, either in tablet mode or while using the Joy-Con grip controller. So apparently, mine was manufactured in the factory that didn't have that issue. So
no. What happened is you got the model that was a later date. It was all the first runs that had the issue. All the later runs from like a certain point on are fixed.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Like the very first day one runs, the report rate is something as staggering as like 70% of people. Like everyone I know that I work with that has a Switch has that problem. No one is safe if you got the first run.
Well, good thing they figured out what it was then, I guess.
Rough life.
I am a little bit disappointed at Nintendo's announcement and decisioning at first. When you have the world telling you this is a reproducible defect, and you know you're quiet for, I think they were quiet for like 3 weeks. I don't know. It feels like if it's that reproducible,
at least they didn't say we were holding it wrong. You know.
They did at first, Josh. They said stop playing it next to TVs, phones.
That's different than saying, like, don't hold it by the edges, you moron. How else am I supposed to hold my fucking phone, Steve? You asshole!
Okay, they didn't pull an Apple, but they did say never use the left Joy-Con next to any electronic device ever.
I mean, most electronic devices, and they're like warnings and stuff like that say, hey, if you use this around other electronic devices, you're going to have interference, yada, yada. So, that's pretty standard, like, corporate.
Yeah, it's a shitty...
This is what we have to say because this is what lawyers say we have to say to not get sued.
Oh, I disagree with you on that. I think it was just a cop-out thing to kind of try to appease people. Like, if you want to just go ahead and say, like, there's an issue, we're looking into it, say that and leave it be. You don't need to go in and, like, here's how you fix this. Don't play it next to a TV that emits Wi-Fi. Oh, you mean like every TV ever made past 2010? Okay, all right. I mean, don't play it near your cell phone. What the fuck is wrong with you? What in the whole good goddamn is wrong with you? How dare you as an electronic manufacturer have those words in print? That mark it down. I guarantee it. That's going to go down when people do their like controversies of 2017. That's going to be in someone's top 10. Nintendo's saying don't play your Switch around electronics.
Well, we'll see how it tops with the controversies of 2016, 2017. I don't think there are any other VR startup companies that have a bunch of white nationalist ties, so you might be onto something.
What?
Yeah,
the Palmer Luckey stuff, but I think we're probably run out of plucky VR industry like kids to have a crazy political dark side. So I think you might be onto something there, Ray, as like the leading kind of. Well, other than, I guess another kind of news item I guess we could parlay into is just some of the feedback. I mean, I'm not like I wasn't really like dying to play this game, but some of the stuff around the new Mass Effect has been a little mixed.
So
for a lot of different reasons, not just and also please be responsible and don't go dox people who work on your favorite game and or people who don't work there anymore, and don't blame them because making games are really hard, but sometimes things happen. So continue.
I wanted to talk about that. Can we talk about that briefly? So
yeah.
one, I was both very confused and like tacitly looking forward to Mass Effect Andromeda because I love the first 3 games. I think I've covered with you guys many a times that the second one, Mass Effect 2, is one of my favorite games of all time. It's the only game I have repeatedly 3 or 4 times, to my knowledge, beaten 100%, done everything you could possibly do. I could write a book on that game. I feel like I'm an employee of BioWare when I talk about Mass Effect 2. Not 1, not 3, specifically 2. I think it's the best. So I really love the story, and I thought the story of 3, say what you will about the ending, but the story was over. It's like, you can't go on from here. You just can't.
It would be very like, oh, there are other more different evil robots. Like, yeah, so...
Yeah, when you're facing like this galactic threat that wants to wipe out all intelligent organic life, spoilers for the Mass Effect series, and then you defeat them, or you make friends with them, or you control them, I don't know, whatever. I think that's like, okay, you got your choice, you got your ending, and you as an individual should be happy with the ending that you chose. But to go ahead and say, well, we're just going to go to another galaxy. Oh, what happened with the Milky Way galaxy? You figure it out, fucker. I mean...
Yeah, and it sounds like...
I just don't think this game should have existed, is what I'm trying to say. I think this game feels shoehorned. Like the trilogy of Mass Effect was planned from the very beginning. Andromeda was never a planned item. It's clearly a cash grab item. There's no more story to tell. The original people that made up the story of Mass Effect aren't even working for BioWare anymore, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, there's no... In my personal opinion, this product feels like it's lacking artistic integrity. And, yeah, that feels very pompous of me to say, but that's honestly how I feel. Now we could talk about the controversies of Mass Effect Andromeda. Yeah, that game's rough. There's no shortage of videos you can watch of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen stuff. It just seems like a mixed bag, kind of a lot of different, like, I mean, technical things like characters T-posing, like, or completely
facial
missing
animations,
completely missing from cutscenes. I've seen just just kind of bad writing, like there was a character who was like, I came on the Andromeda, my name is Stephanie, like, I came here on the Andromeda mission to, find myself, back on Earth. I was known as Dave, and I didn't feel like that was really who I was. And it's like, no trans person does that. Like, what is that? Like, just kind of like, every little kind of
stuff, like people having a conversation, not like looking just past the other person, like quite obviously not making eye contact or even looking at the person, and you're just like, it's very unsettling to watch these people not look at each other but have a conversation and knowing that they're supposed to be looking at each other.
Yeah, and it's so it, like, I guess just from afar, I mean, I haven't had my hands on the game, but just the impression I pick up is that, like, I guess I mean, I played 1 and 2. I didn't play 3. I guess I kind of I gained knowledge of 3 through osmosis.
3 by watching others play it.
By watching Matt play it mostly. And
don't say his last name. I know you're tempted to.
And
don't do it.
And I thought those games just have a really good kind of sense of. I mean, there's a sense of place in history. That BioWare was able to really create, like, through dialogue and through, like, just notes and conversations and side plots, and kind of the problem of being like a colonial kind of journey is that it's hard to kind of dig into that kind of history and sense of place that really, I think, really made Mass Effect special for a lot of people. Kind of having the whole interaction of all these races and all that stuff, and it seems like they weren't quite able to translate that from one generation to another. So that's kind of my piece on that. What do you have anything else you want to say about this, Josh?
Not really. I have no affinity for Mass Effect just because I've never played it, so my interest in Mass Effect Andromeda is already pretty low. It's one of those things I'd like to go back and play the original 3 at some point, but I just don't know if I'll have the time. It just seems completely baffling to me how a game of this size and with this beloved franchise could come out in this state. I do think some of the vitriol and the hatred that people have been getting who work for BioWare is completely ridiculous, and people really need to fucking
Can
check
we talk
themselves.
about that?
It's unreal. It's unrealistic. It's sick to see people threatening death to artists because the game is buggy. You're an asshole.
It's just a real. Not that I had a huge amount of faith in the anonymous video gaming internet community to really pull through and not fuck it up. Boy, oh boy, they sure love to fuck things up like that, and
they really do.
It's there are very legitimate criticisms you can have about the game, but be a grown up, and doxing people and threatening them and. All sorts of assorted other activities are not the way to do that, and it never has been acceptable, and it never will be acceptable.
That's also not the way to encourage people to make a better product. You can
exactly
having a thoughtful discussion and voicing your displeasure and saying hey, I expect better of you guys with this franchise. That is much more of a motivator than I'm gonna fucking kill you or I'm gonna send just do bullshit to you. That's not gonna make people want to work hard. That's
as much as I love
I'm
to,
out.
As much as I love to dog on Payday, and Payday 2, when a lot of problems popped up when they would make changes that the community really didn't like. That community was really upset, and obviously, you can't account for everybody being a responsible person, but it definitely seemed like the overwhelming voice from the community was much more of okay, this is a real bummer. This isn't us as players don't appreciate this change.
We really wish you hadn't
done this. We wish you didn't do this. Here, let's try and find a different solution. Obviously, this is kind of a different situation from an ongoing, a kind of a patch that was made to the game versus the full product and kind of after years of work. There's a bit of difference of scale there, but I thought generally the community did a good job of airing its grievances in a responsible way, and obviously the minority. I think we're looking at a loud minority here, as is a lot of the case a lot of times.
But it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth when you see even a bit of that reaction coming from the fan base. You're just that.
Yeah, it's kind of enough because it's when it gets to the point that it's I kind of feel bad even saying something negative about this game because I don't want to associate myself.
You don't want a dog pile.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
I wanted to talk about this thing as an outsider looking in. So yeah, I think it was you or Josh. I think it was you, Mike, that hit the nail on the head. The amount of people that are acting like complete. The amount of people acting like complete and utter asshats, they're in the extreme minority. There are just a lot of other people that are just hey, I paid money for this game based on a popular series that I grew to fall in love with, multimedia series even. And you guys really fucked the pooch on this one. Can we get some explanation? And BioWare is taking this on the chin. EA is taking it with BioWare on the chin. If you check their Twitter, they will say we accept criticism, but we do not accept insults to employees directly. That is unfair, and I agree that is completely unfair. Can Can we talk about the debacle with the employee? Now, I forget her name, and I'm not... No, I remember her name now. But I'm not going to say it. There's no point in anyone, like, searching her out or, like, insulting her or whatever. Mm-hmm. She said that she was the facial animation editor at BioWare. And she said this for, like, 3 years. And then once the game came out and everyone got to see the facial animations... if you were to go to this person's social media profile, they've scrubbed all records of them ever having worked at BioWare or EA. People have used Internet Time Machine, of course, to bring it up and say, like, no, here's your LinkedIn profile, here's your Facebook profile, here's your Twitter profile. You have said in all these social media things, you were the lead facial animator. What is this? And EA hasn't said anything. BioWare hasn't said anything. And it's not really their place or job to say anything. Maybe she got, like, hella fired. And if, according to her LinkedIn profile, which I actually got to see before, as a piece of journalism, if you will, even though I'm not a journalist, I actually got to see what her LinkedIn profile looked like. Mm-hmm. Apparently she had been working in, like, in the industry of art for years. She had a degree in art. She had been working in, like, a couple different games, a couple different tech pieces for the past 4 years along with her degree. So obviously if someone said, hey, this person is a lead animator for a large company, you just kind of shrug your shoulders and say, as it should be, and the sun rises and sets, you know, one of those things. But to see that person, like, scrub everything to where it's just no longer publicly viewable and you have to go back to Internet Database to actually see what she formerly had a profile at, that makes people raise a lot of eyebrows. Like, are you a pathological liar and taking credit for something you didn't do? Or did you really, really fuck up here? Or maybe it's not that person's fault.
And it's
EA
probably...
said we need to...
and I think it's something that's probably, you know... I'm gonna go out on a limb and say is probably the issue is that especially with how the criticisms about the writing... regarding the end of Mass Effect 3 and how the community, you know, was very energized about that. Oh, and it turned out that one of the head writers was a woman, and you know, and this animator being a woman. I think, you know, I've mentioned, like we've talked about, I think it's a loud minority, but sometimes people like to people love to make really stupid assumptions about things like that, and it's really disappointing that that's still a big part. That's unfortunately part of. It's again a minority, but it's something that happens.
It's
in
an
games.
extreme minority.
It's a real bummer that's the case. And that's a really bummer topic. So I don't know how. Do you guys want to kind of move on to something else? Any last parting shots here, or?
I'm not gonna pick it up.
I think I'm gonna pass too. Who knows? Maybe down the road.
Vote with your wallet. My vote is no. I didn't agree with this game existing. Now I really disagree with this game existing.
Ooh.
Yeah, I went there.
Well, hey, speaking of games, I think games we think should exist. How do you guys feel about Destiny 2? Destiny 2. That's the name. Destiny. It's the cell shaded sequel to our favorite. Name. It's so is Final Fantasy. So,
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong.
Final Fantasy at least has a history to its name.
Destiny will have a history in 10 years. I'll show you. It's a 10-year plan, Ray. They even told us that up first.
We had a plan to name everything Destiny and then just keep adding on, but it was so bad we had to make a new name and we just called it Destiny.
No, I was specifically talking about Destiny.
Okay, now wait, if I can't now just wait. You're going to be just wait until we get to Destiny 10 2, and then you can tell me it's a really dumb name. Then you can tell me. I would play Destiny Tactics.
I would play Destiny Tactics. You put that sumbitch on the phone with microtransactions. I'm in.
I would play that. I would play that game. I would definitely.
Yeah, that sounds kind of fun, actually. That one's free, Activision.
Yeah, check please. Yeah, I'll take a check, Activision, please.
Unscriptedgamecast@gmail.com.
I'm not with him.
Get at us.
I'll take my money. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Bobby. Okay, there it is. Well, so there was a kind of a mostly what we saw was just some teasers. So we don't have a real definitive look at the gameplay and what some of the major changes are. I think from a couple things we can tell a lot in that nothing is really carrying over item wise. Mm-hmm. I mean your ugly character appearance, which is I think the thing that most people wanted to change the most. I think it's hilarious that you can keep that. It's like, oh no, but my character's ugly. No. Why?
Remember the thing you spent money on? Not gonna come.
Anyone that paid microtransactions in Destiny, I think, beyond buying like expansions, which I get, I think if you actually paid for microtransactions in Destiny, in my personal opinion, you are a sucker, because that was a game you paid real ass money for, and the microtransactions were so.
I'm gonna go one better.
Okay.
If you paid real money for Destiny,
wow,
you're a sucker.
Slow your roll.
Wow. Whoa. Destiny is a fun game. I will defend Destiny. That is a solid 6 out of 10.
Okay, wait a minute.
3 out of 5 stars.
All right, okay.
No, it's 3 out of 5.
I'm not going to take the
3 out of 5
stars. We're talking about Destiny 2. But what I was kind of mentioning here is, since a lot of that stuff, like your character stats or weapons aren't really coming over, and the fact that this is confirmed for PC, it was pretty heavily rumored to be so. But it is confirmed for PC. I guess I'm really curious to see how much of it's gonna, like, what it means gameplay wise, like what's changing, because a lot of the I guess kind of tweaks you can kind of set to your weapons in Destiny, like I can choose between having a slightly snappier kind of auto aim because it's a console shooter, with a trade-off for like damage range or general accuracy. So I wonder if they'll still kind of have those trade-offs in the new version, especially if it's going to be if we're going to be considering for PC. Mm-hmm. And I guess just another kind of note here is, I always kind of forget about this as Destiny, but up until the last Rise of Iron, you could play everything in Destiny on a 360 and a PS3.
No, you couldn't.
Okay.
You can't play Rise of Iron.
He just said except Rise of Iron.
That's what
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought you said including. My apologies. I misheard. Please continue, Mike.
Please proceed, Governor. Well, so you can do like the Taken King. You could do Vault of Glass. Like you can do all that stuff was also on the 360 PS3 generation. So Destiny 2 is obviously not going to be having to worry about that like legacy support. I wouldn't be surprised with just some of the things that have been said about the development of original Destiny, with like how long it would take them just to make the smallest of tweaks to maps. I wonder if they're going to be just completely rebuilding or at least reworking the engine in major ways to be able to develop content.
I would imagine
easier.
At the very least the tools are going to be majorly overhauled, because that was an issue, and that was unacceptable. And if there was some scenario in which the tools were the same and they were still doing that to this day, I wouldn't know how to respond to that. That would just be absolutely ridiculous.
Like recklessly inefficient.
I mean, I think that's the whole reason we have Destiny 2, is because they're like, all right, we finally hit a turning point with this dumpster fire that we just have to say, all right, this is where we make the clean break. We kind of refresh everything and we move on from this with a fresh slate.
And I think and that's,
I gotta jump in here. Bungie just released a statement 2 days ago saying they are not turning off support anytime soon of Destiny 1. So it's not a clean break at all.
Well, it's going to be as far as like, development of largely new content. Like they're not shutting down the servers on Destiny 1, which I don't think anybody expected for a good long while. No, but there's still
going to be like millions of dollars a year in support for it.
Well, yeah, it's obviously going to be reduced because they have a higher workload, but it's good to know that stuff's still going to be there. And I think generally with I mean, with things like, speculating it's on PC, it's likely going to be working on a new engine, just for the, at the very least, just for the ease of the developers, so they can actually, make content faster and it's less of a pain in the ass for them. Like, Kotaku did some really eye-opening reports on, like, what the heck happened to Destiny 1, and just, like, what that developer team had to go through. And there's some really interesting stuff in there. So I think, generally, like, with all of those changes, like, PC, and things like that, at least for me, as far as, any kind of sadness, or I guess, like, oh, I'm kind of bummed that, like, I'm not going to be able to carry over some of my favorite stuff, like, from Destiny 1 to 2, is just made completely irrelevant and just blown away by things like PC support, generally just having learned from making Destiny 1, and just generally how good, like, the content has been. Like, I mean, just some of the, like, the stuff in the Taken King, like, as someone, I wasn't there on day one of Destiny, but you can clearly tell that they have a much better idea of what they're doing as, like, the later the content is, or, like, the newer the content is. So having that refresh and that big kind of reset, I think, especially for, I don't think I spent any money, like, getting, the Thriller emote or anything like that. But so I think for a lot of people, I not to speak for them, but I imagine most of them are probably in the same boat, that the changes promised by Destiny 2 and what that hints for, I think, is kind of worth leaving some of that stuff behind. Josh, you were saying?
I was going to say, though, I have a question.
Okay.
And I think for the most part, we all view Destiny 2 coming to PC as a good thing, because, there's a lot of people who haven't got the chance to play it yet. Get to play it, myself, who hasn't had a console in how long, if Destiny 2 is actually not a hot pile of garbage, I might actually pick it up, because I've always kind of been tangentially interested in Destiny.
It's like Borderlands, but better.
They haven't put it on a platform that I have, or made it yet quite compelling enough for me to need to go and do that. But is there a chance that the putting it on PC also kind of hamstrings the start, or can get confusing? Like, how are they going to handle having a massive part of the player base who has not had experience with Destiny 1 versus balancing all the people who are coming from Destiny and just ready to get going? Like, how do they onboard those players with this continuing through line and this narrative? And the judging by the just a little bit of the teaser I've seen, because I've really, I always pretty much avoid trailers and stuff like that, even for stuff.
I have no idea who these people are.
This shows no gameplay. Well, don't worry about it.
But I mean, the one thing I saw is a big city and a bunch of shit on fire, and I assume that's probably important and has some backstory. Like, how are they going to tread that line? Or do you think that trying to bring in this massive group of people who have no backstory with...
In the trailer, they say that the tower, which was the main social gathering place in the first game, has fallen.
But I don't know what the tower is.
I
just know that it's fallen.
And I think that's an interesting kind of problem, because, I mean, I guess we haven't really... I mean, there's probably examples like it before, but it is kind of crazy that, like, Destiny isn't... It's not just, like, going from, like, it's adding PC, and a lot of people play games on PC. Like, I'm trying to think of something else, like... Oh, it's kind of... I guess speaking of Mass Effect, like, it's kind of like how... Because Mass Effect 1 was only on Xbox, I think. I mean, before it came to PC and stuff. And then for the PS3 version, because Mass Effect 2 was published by EA and not Microsoft, I think. You can fact check me on that if you need me to, and you need to. But PS3, it was playing Mass Effect 2, a first Mass Effect game, but it was the second one. So they did like that Dark Horse catch-up comic thing. And so that is an interesting question, Josh, because, I mean, you're right, because a lot of people are going to be coming in, because a lot of people are going to be playing this game and coming into this just because, like I said, a lot of people play PC games and people who don't really have, a good kind of grasp of the kind of story and just some of the characters. And that's obviously, I think, somewhere where they can. Some of the storytelling in Destiny wasn't great until some of the later add-ons, and so I think that they have a real good opportunity to set like a kind of not like a reset on the story, but to really, I think they have a really good chance to bring everybody in and get everybody up to speed pretty quickly with some of the main characters. And do a lot more work to get you to know them. I mean, more than anything that anything beyond what would happen with Destiny 1 with a lot of those key characters like you saw in the teaser wouldn't be that hard, and I don't think would be like a chore for people who played Destiny 1. I think they would appreciate more of that. The tricky thing I think is going to be working in more of the lore into the game, because the shitty answer I could have given to this question is, Josh, well, if you go to www.bungie.net and log in
and read the Grimoire card,
not gonna happen.
You can just print off all these Grimoire cards.
It's a pile of shit.
If it's not in the game, I'm not gonna know it. So
and that's a real and
Destiny.
That's the big problem is because the lore in Destiny is really cool. Like I play games I play games like Dark Souls, and I'm kind of a lore geek and like to do I watch Dark Souls lore videos.
Yeah.
I do it.
And see, lore is how
that's
you
my
get
secret shame, and I totally admit to it.
To buy season passes and to buy extra content. If they don't do a good enough job of engrossing me in that world and really catching me up and getting me involved, I'm gonna play it. I'm just saying, no, that's good. And then when it comes time to buy, DLC and stuff comes up, I'm like,
maybe not.
I got my fill. I'm gonna go play Overwatch.
Yeah, so that's gonna be the real big question is just because that lore, there's some really cool stuff and it's really enjoyable and and some of the best and not only just the Grimoire cards aren't just encyclopedia entries, some of them are little short stories, which are really interesting. It's here's this weird AI supercomputer trying to calculate what this mysterious orb is doing and trying to possibly injuring it so it can't leave and has to stay and help humanity and making those calculations that's a really crazy concept that's nowhere in the game, and that's going to be the big challenge of Destiny 2.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's going to be the big challenge of Destiny 2, and I think kind of just to wrap up adding more depth to the main character, those main characters that we saw in the teaser trailer and stuff, it's not going to be hard to beat what was in Destiny 1, and I think people, it'll serve as a good intro for people who are fresh to Destiny, and I think just people who played the first Destiny would just see how night and day it is, and would appreciate it. But it's definitely just, they really need to, Destiny the game only hints at, unfortunately, just really hints at some of the stuff that is buried in that lore, and it's such a shitty system. And if they fix that for Destiny 2, honestly, the gameplay stuff is, I'm sure is going to be great too. But I think that is where there's potential to make Destiny really cool, is if they actually engrave the lore in the game in a much more meaningful way, because it's a shame to have something so good that they're just doing nothing with. Ray,
even Mass Effect, which came out 7 years before Destiny, had the Codex, and the first thing I did when I turned on Mass Effect was sit down for 4 hours, and it was all voiced. You can listen to every single entry about how every single weapon, every single race, every single planet system that you come across.
I don't even.
All of that was delicious.
Yeah, and I don't even know if they just need to copy paste into Destiny. I'd like to see them work more of it into the actual narrative. I think that would be really cool. But even if they just did something like that, at the very least, I think would go a long way. So generally, I'm kind of. I played a lot of Destiny. I enjoy a lot of Destiny. So
I don't have time to explain why I don't have time to explain.
I think
that line is Destiny 1 incarnate.
Destiny. I think Destiny 2 is kind of a silly name, but I'm fine with it. I'm pretty excited about Destiny 2, guys.
Matt, you're not alone, by the way. I mean, Mike, you're not alone. I also watch Vati Vidya. He's got some good Dark Souls and Bloodborne.
Yes, he does.
He's got the good shit right there.
Shout out.
Yeah, you're a good guy. I should donate to his Patreon. Anyways, Josh, you got any parting thoughts on Destiny 2? Because I got one last thing I wanted to bring up.
I'm not going to buy it day one. I'll wait to see if they make it good or not, and then maybe I will.
All right, I mean, that's fair. That's the most reasonable approach to any of these things, honestly. It's like, oh, Josh, you fucking moron, you should be pre-ordering it right now. And you know what? Had Amazon given me that sexy offer where they take away, 15% off of your pre-order, I might have. Because if it's a game I really want, and Amazon's like, hey, if you pre-order with us, we'll take away 15% off the top of the price.
But here's the thing. You don't have to pre-order it. Ooh. It's, just a new game. So, there's, a couple-week window where that thing still is available. So I can still sit and wait for a week, 2 weeks to see what the kind of consensus is on the game and still get that monetary price. Are
you sure?
Yep. There's literally no reason to pre-order.
No, if Amazon actually has a deal as you're orating it right now, then yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
But the only way I've ever seen it was, pre-order status.
Yeah, it's pre-orders and new releases, up to 2 weeks. Because
Okay.
You can still get Prime savings on Breath of the Wild right now if that says...
That's awesome. Nice.
Anything to you. So, yeah.
Yeah, because I think the last time... Well, it was probably no, because the last time I used it, I think I bought Dishonored 2. I think I really liked Dishonored 2, but I wanted to wait for the reviews, and then people said, yeah, it's more Dishonored. So I'm like, great, save $12 or whatever. So just wait, unless you and pre-ordering does get you that early beta access. But I'm pretty sure there's going to be an open beta anyway, so don't freak out about it. It'll be fine, people.
I've given up on beta access anything because certain games for AAA games, beta access is just a hype machine.
Besides, Destiny 2 already had a beta. It's called Destiny
1.
Yeah,
you're not wrong.
It's called the first 3 years of Destiny.
Yeah, you're not wrong at all. Sadly. So I was browsing through some Nintendo news, and unfortunately, some Nintendo news has popped up, which has made the Switch look extremely bad in the forthcoming feature. So, Nintendo's decisions to go to cartridges as opposed to Blu-ray discs or any other optical media has come back to haunt them again. There's a brand new game about to come out. I forget what it's called. But for most consoles, it's coming out at the price of $29.99. But for Nintendo, it's coming out at the price of $39.99. Now, it was announced by the developer that the only reason they're charging more on the Switch versus a PS4 or 360 for a physical copy is because it is more expensive to produce the game on those little cartridges than it is on the discs. So much more expensive that they said we couldn't justify releasing the game at anything less than $10 extra on top. And also, it has become known that the storage it has been confirmed now. I remember we talked about this 2 months ago where it was rumored. Now it's confirmed that as of right now, the maximum storage capacity on Switch games is 32 gigs. And the fact that it's more expensive and that it's only a 32 gig size top limit, the top tier limit of cartridges is going to... in the long run, I don't know how to say this, it's going to really just punch Nintendo in the gut for third-party support.
I don't think so.
Okay, Doom is a 75 gig game.
Doom's never coming to the Switch. It just wouldn't.
But it came to PS4 and Xbox One. That's my point. You're missing the point.
I mean, you also wouldn't release Doom on an NVIDIA Shield tablet. It's not that kind of platform.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, I think you're missing the overarching point. You're saying, hey, this is just here, and if you wanted to play Doom, you should go somewhere else. Okay, that you don't see how that hurts Nintendo. If
it doesn't.
They want to play
Nobody has been waiting to play Doom for the Switch to launch. There is not a single person who's like, man, I'm going to wait for
No,
the
I'm
Switch
giving
to
an
get
example.
Doom.
I'm giving an example. If you wanted to play Final Fantasy, say, 15, you play it on the PS4 or Xbox One. Again, another example. You cannot ever play it on Switch because there is no space on the card. Okay? I mean, prove me otherwise. Prove me wrong. Absolutely.
There have been multi-disc games.
There's never been a multi-cart game.
No, but I bet you if they really wanted to, they could now.
That'd be kind of.
I can tell you right now, assuredly.
I
can tell you right now, assuredly, that's not how carts work. That's just not how that works.
I would agree with you if save data was stored on the cart, but since it just seems that the cart just dumps everything onto the Switch then runs it from there because the save data
that's not how that works.
Separately, I bet you there's a way. I bet you there's a way.
How carts work with consoles when you plug the cart into the console and why it locks it in place is the cart and the console become one whole unit. The cart is the console is the cart. So you can't take the cart out of the console at any point. Otherwise, all the data the game was reading, it reads it really weird. Now,
Except for there was a time before they changed the way that it was manufactured where you were going to be able to pop out the Banjo-Kazooie and put in Banjo-Tooie and transfer stuff and be able to use it that way. But the way that Nintendo changed the RAM between pulling the cart and pushing it in made that impossible. But it was possible. I'm betting you if they wanted to, they could. But on a game console such as this, I don't think that a 32 gig limit, at least right now, is that much of a hindrance. I also bet you that eventually, with the manufacturing process getting more refined and them getting better at it and costs coming down, that they'll be able to push the size of the cart bigger if they were to so choose to do that.
And I guess I'm trying to think what game larger than 32 gigs is the Switch going to be able to? I guess with the Switch on like in portable mode would be able to play at a good enough clip. I guess just as kind of like a thought experiment. Like,
what are you talking about?
So
to be fair, the Switch actually renders better in portable mode than it does in docked mode because.
Oh, it's not up-resing. That's right, yeah.
Yeah, because it renders at 720p instead of 1080, so it runs actually better in portable mode when it's plugged in because you're getting all the juices and less pixels, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to think, I am scratching my brain here to think of something that would, I would love to play Doom on my Switch, but I also don't want to play Doom at, barely holding on to 30 frames per second with... It just is obviously not going to be an ideal experience, and I think, that's... I mean, Nintendo is kind of filling a... I mean, it's kind of, filling a, I don't want to say void, but... an opening in the market for a portable type console, and I think
well, they've marketed this thing as a whole. I want to believe you because was my initial thinking for the first couple weeks because it does work really, really well as a portable console. The seat I'm sitting in now is where 60 of my 75 hours of Breath of the Wild was played. You know what I'm saying? So, just for people that are listening, there's no TV in front of me anywhere. My dock is in the living room, way out there. But the point I'm trying to get at is if it's supposed to be marketed as a home console, which there's no mistaking that this was and continues to be marketed as a home console.
And I use it as such. Mine is docked, and my wife and I play on the TV. That's where we're playing Zelda. We played on the television.
Right. My point is there's a lot of home console major third-party games that, again, might just be left in the dust on the Nintendo platform, which has historically been to their detriment. So, are you...
I guess to counterpoint,
when that happened previously, it feature-wise, there was a less of a difference between this. I guess there's less of a difference because the reason why that a lot of these third-party titles that are getting developed for a PS4 or a PC or the Xbox aren't going to make their way over to the Switch is because they're not designing those games to be. Those games just don't work on something that is, a portable device, and that you can, and that's something they have to account for.
I'm sorry, I can't buy that. I can't buy that.
Can you let me finish?
It's the exact. Go for it.
Got him.
And I think, a lot of times when Nintendo ran into this in the past, I think this is going to be something that's going to be, we'll have to keep an eye on to see, what the Switch library turns into, and as the machine grows. I mean, it's only been out for like just barely over a month at this point. Is the indie scene? I think it's been a lot healthier, and for a lot of, and this is the first chance for a lot of those games to get onto something that's portable and not just like a cell phone, which is for a lot of like indie games. Like, I don't know if I want to play Shovel Knight like on my touch screen. And I think that's where that is going to be something I hope Nintendo leans into, because generally, like, getting those titles on the the first ever portable version of X is good, and also playing those games is generally going to give you're going to be able to get a little more use out of it because you're going to have it's generally less strenuous on the device itself. I think that's where they're to be successful, that's what I think that they should target. I don't think Nintendo should target, getting 2016 Doom on the Switch. I think that's a bad idea, and I don't think that's why I don't think that's a big focus of the Switch. I think buying a Nintendo Switch as a high-end, gaming device comparable with a gaming PC is a bad choice. Because I think you just have to, at the end of the day, yes, I understand it's being marketed as a home console. I understand that. I get that. You can hook it up to TV. That's really cool. But you can take this thing on the go. You can take this thing, it's portable. And your PS4 and your gaming PC is not. And that just requires a different perspective as far as what is good or bad for this device. I mean, I'm not one to sit here and say, I don't have access to Nintendo internal data or any other kind of projections of what they think, but I guess that's kind of my two thoughts on it.
I'm saying, like, historically, for Wii U, to a lesser extent GameCube and 64, lack of third-party support hurts their console sales substantially.
But I think there is a difference in this era of lack of third-party support. I think you're going to see pretty good third-party support, except from the highest-end AAA stuff, and I think that is okay. Because the people who are going to miss out on the biggest games either already have another device in which they could play that on, or they're young and they probably shouldn't be playing an M-rated game anyway. Because let's be honest, most of the really, really big AAA games tend to be, ones that are for a more mature audience.
And I guess, it's either, so I guess the question is either this is kind of not a great example, but either your Switch is either your primary this is a weird kind of thought experiment, so it's either your primary gaming device, or it's either like the Switch is the first kind of this generation device that you've purchased, or you have something else kind of more powerful with it, like already within your home. And so I think, for a lot of people, either they haven't hopped on the new generation of PS4, Xbox built themselves a new PC, they hadn't done that yet, and they have a Switch, or it's kind of a supplementary device. So, I guess.
Wouldn't you agree though that's a bad tactic?
I don't think I would agree with that. I guess here's what I think Nintendo sees. I think Nintendo sees an opening in the market, because I think they looked at the Wii U sales, and they looked at the sales figures, and they looked at the 3DS sales figures, and saw an opportunity to, maybe there's a way we can kind of marry these devices in a way that, we probably won't hit the peaks of the 3DS, but we will probably, if we make a more, I guess, engaging device than the Wii U, then we could do something really interesting. And kind of focusing all of their development instead of splitting it onto, mobile and like 3DS and Wii U, and kind of focusing it on one device, and just having all of your Nintendo games in kind of one place. I think strategically having that laser focus on one kind of console. I mean, that's kind of the interesting thing here, is that, like, and kind of the point I wanted to make is, like, when they've been disadvantaged in the past, I guess when they've had maybe lacked third-party support in the past, the Wii was pretty different. Like, the Wii had motion control, which is kind of a crazy big thing back then. But I think that just the Switch is so radically different from a PS4 and an Xbox, which are, I guess, like, technically, yes, they're competing, but it feels like they're certainly not competing in the same way that the PS4 and the Xbox are. Like, those two devices are trying to accomplish the same objective. And I think the Switch is doing something very different. I feel like I'm totally rambling here, and there was some big point I was trying to make.
Well, I'm going to make an executive decision and end this discussion because, A, we've talked about it before, B, we could talk about it till we're blue in the face, and
true.
We just won't know. We just can't know right now. I think
there was just something I wanted to bring up that's kind of a huge kick in the teeth towards further development. Is it's more expensive and there's limited space. So if you're a third-party developer, you have less of a reason.
The cost will come down. The space will get up. And yes, the cart is going to be more expensive. But here's the value proposition for the developer too. If you're making the kind of game that is benefited from people being able to take that on the go with them, to be that game that they can have with them at all times rather than just at home, then you're going to be okay with that investment because you're going to get that back in the fact that you're going to be engaging these people a lot more.
What the hell are you talking about?
I'm saying if you can put your game on a platform where they can say, hey, I'm going to be able to engage with this game a lot more because it's going to be with me all the time rather than just at home, your odds of monetizing that game or making that sale go up because you're going to have people who have their hands on it more often. So get that on the platform that people want to take with them and give them a reason to engage with your game more than they would if it was on your Xbox.
And I guess one last point I want to make about the size. It definitely was. Breath of the Wild it takes up a lot of, I guess, the default memory on the Switch, but the game is 13.4 gigs. So,
no, it's 25.
I'm looking at an article that says it's 13.4. So we can.
You sure?
That's I just looked it up.
If I'm incorrect, I'm incorrect. My apologies.
Yeah. So we'll fact check that, but that was the reports that I saw on the size of the game. So file size isn't everything, and we'll I guess we can call it there because you're right. We can go blue in the face talking about this. But was there anything else we needed to hit tonight, or do you guys want? We're probably coming up on a little over an hour here, so do you want to call it that? Do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah,
I've got nothing else to talk about.
I think I'm good.
That was my biggest concern, honestly, as a switcher in there. But yeah, I think that's it.
Beautiful. Well, hey, Josh, give us the rundown.
Well, if you haven't already, I don't know why you haven't, but let's fix this right now. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube at Unscripted Gaming. Follow us on Facebook. Just look up Unscripted Gaming. You can get us on Twitter at unscript_gaming. You can get us on SoundCloud.com/unscripted-gaming. Get us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, wherever you can get podcasts. You can get us in your earballs. Take us with you always and forever, because we got hot takes.
And you got to get them on the go.
Yeah, you got long commutes. We got hot takes. Let's do this together. But
beautiful.
I think that'll do it for Unscripted Gaming. Question mark? We out?
Yeah, that's good. I think that's good. I love that there's a question mark there.
This is the best. This is the best outro we've ever done.
Compared to how precise and commanding the introduction to this podcast was, it's a real letdown, Josh.
See, here's the thing. Because you did the intro so well, we had to do the outro so poorly. So all I have to say is, until next time.
Bye.
With a question mark?
Peace.
Goodbye.